right.
Here we go.
Welcome back to the season finale of the Merge Feast. I'm Blake, joined by Logan and Brandon. Welcome back, guys.
It's a good
Hello.
one.
Man, we have been talking about this moment for a while. This is not who I thought I would see in the Final Four. I don't think any of us were kind of prepared for this at the beginning of the season, but man, the really Final Three and a great season, a great finale. So we'll just kind of hop into it. What'd you guys think?
I definitely think the season was overall a great season. Enjoyed the season finale. I think just kind of put an ending to a great season. And I think there was definitely some points that we need to talk about and some spots that I thought were interesting, but was definitely a great season finale.
Yeah. First off, I don't know if you said it already, Blake, but congrats to Kinsey for winning. But this was I think Jeff said it, this was going to be a season unlike any other, and it's exactly what it was. It was unique, different, completely full of characters kind of taking over the game, and even Jeff doing things that we haven't seen before. And honestly, I didn't expect this outcome 3 weeks ago, but kind of saw it coming. But it was a good wrap to what was overall a really good season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was a very fun season, very lighthearted, a lot of personality, and a lot of highs, a lot of lows. It was just, I don't know, it was fun. And like you said, getting to see kind of the banter back and forth between the contestants and Jeff, getting to see Jeff, pull out popcorn at Tribal, and I don't know, just little things like that we've never really seen before, just made the game feel much, much more lighthearted and just fun. So yeah, I think all in all it was great, and yeah, absolutely shout out to Kinsey. I think we saw her gameplay really early on from how much they focused when her tribe was losing, and just you saw her social game from the beginning. So I shout out to her. She killed it.
Yeah, her social game was absolutely unmatched. I think that's what ended up winning her the game. Obviously, she seemed like she had a lot of connections with the members on the jury, to even just being able to make people laugh and like her based on her story and different things like that. So definitely a job well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about how we got to the finale and the winner, or not the finale, but how we got to Kinsey winning. So let's kind of start where we left off after last episode. Maria took shots at Charlie, and Charlie came out unscathed after Q went home with an idol in his pocket. And this episode kind of started out with Maria talking to Charlie immediately, and I thought she played it off really well. Seemed a little like a little made up, but I thought for a second, is Charlie going to believe her and still work with her? And he saw right through it, but never really, I don't know, never really led on. So I was curious if you guys thought that that Maria played that well at all.
I think she played it. When you're talking to Charlie, somebody who's clearly a pretty sharp guy, smart player, I don't really think much gets past him. I think she did the best that she could as far as like at least doing a little bit of damage control and making sure that their relationship is still solid, just in case she needs his vote at the end. she could still potentially have it, even though she went after him. So I think she did well, even though Charlie didn't really buy it.
Yeah, and I think when you're in those situations, you obviously have to do some damage control, especially with their relationship from the kind of the very beginning. And speaking to Charlie's game with how well, like, he talked at the end about keeping his options open, I think he does a really good job of, like, playing it off like he wasn't upset, which he never seemed to be really upset, but he kept that door open to where if he needed to go that route with her, then that would have been an option. So I think he did a really good job all game of kind of, like he said at the end, keeping those doors open. So he always had options for what was next.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, pretty much right after that, we jumped almost straight into immunity and reward. Brandon, you want to talk us through this challenge?
Yes, I do. I forgive me, I don't remember. Oh, reward was pasta, basically, right? Okay, so this challenge I liked because number one, the way to win was a little bit unique, and how the winner won immunity was also something I don't know if we've seen before. So the challenge was pretty typical Survivor challenge. Obstacle course, so you're going to get a little muddy, and if you're Charlie, you're going to smack yourself in the face with a bucket of water
And have a knot on your head the rest of the episode.
Yeah, and then you're going to navigate through your obstacle course and get to a puzzle. You're going to solve a puzzle, and it's going to give you further instructions on what you need to do next in order to open up a combination lock. And the instructions were basic. I don't have it written down, unfortunately. Blake, do you?
It was count the number of pieces in your puzzle and the number of holes in your plank.
Right. So yeah. Yeah, there was a plank earlier in the obstacle course that had a bunch of holes in it. So at this point, we're working on the puzzle. Everybody's there, and Kinsey solves the puzzle first. And everybody's wanting to get Maria out. So Liz recognizes that she's not going to solve her puzzle, and she's not going to beat Maria. But Kinsey can. So Liz sacrifices her own shot at immunity and starts to help Kinsey. So Liz runs back. And again, I've never seen this before. I honestly didn't think this was allowed.
I didn't think so either.
Yeah, so Liz runs back and grabs Kinsey's plank so she can count the holes in the plank to get the number, one of the numbers to the combination lock. And through teamwork, Kinsey wins immunity because of Liz's efforts. And yeah, I'm fairly certain that I've seen players in previous seasons get told that you can't work together. So I don't know if they were like, this is really good TV, we're just going to let it slide, or if they changed the rules or what. But I honestly didn't really have a problem with it.
I didn't know if I loved it because I feel like at that stage of the game, it's individual immunity. You're not playing as a team or your alliance. Obviously, to a point, you are trying to get somebody out if you don't think you can beat them. So I understand that side of it, but I just thought it was a little, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, kind of cheap in a way of a way to beat the best player. But at the end of the day, they had to have that many people to be able to beat her because Maria was that good of a challenger. And so definitely a respect thing there, but I don't know. It was just kind of interesting to me, and I'm still not sure how I fully feel about it.
I'm with you, Logan. I think it's a classic case of if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I mean, you've got to be able to play in the gray and challenge the rules. Hey, they didn't say that we couldn't work together, so we're going to. Like, fair game, smart move on their part, and brilliant that it worked out for Kinsey the way that it did. My thing though is it's individual immunity. Like, you have to do this on your own. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but what's to stop them from doing that again in the final challenge with the ball and saying, "Hey, I'll watch your ball for you, and you just focus on the puzzle, and I'll give you a heads up. I'm not going to help you and touch your stuff, but that's just it's weird, and it did not sit well with me at all. I kept thinking, like, okay, if this hadn't gone this way and Maria won, what would the outcome have been? Charlie probably would have still gone, or would have gone home. And then the final, I mean, depending on if Ben won at the end again, like, it could have still ended up the exact same way, but I think Maria would have been in the final 3. And I don't know. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting moment that I'll be curious to see if they make that a point at all in the future seasons, of if somebody tries to do that you can't help, or if they talk about that at all. But I mean, it is what it is. It happened, and I think it was still a great episode, and doesn't really tarnish the season by any means. So I don't. I mean,
For sure.
yeah.
I'm definitely with you. What'd you guys think of Kinsey taking Ben to on reward?
I think it makes sense. I think he was the only one that hadn't been to the sanctuary yet, and I think at that point in the season, I don't think there's really, at least for this group of people, I don't think that there was any sort of jury management or bonds that needed to be built in order to get to the next phase of the game. So, yeah, I think it was like, hey, let's just have a good time because you haven't been here yet, and everyone was cool with it.
Yeah, I thought he was the perfect pick, and I honestly kind of expected her to pick him just with the relationship they've built. And like Brandon said, there's not a ton that you need to be like, hey, we need to vote this person off and do this, because at that point in the game, it is you just won reward. Like, let's just enjoy it. Let's rock.
I'm with you, except I wonder if there was a little more strategy in that, so that thinking that, hey, this way Charlie and Maria can't be in Ben's ear and vote out Liz. Because I think the worst thing that could have happened to Kinsey would be having Charlie and Maria sit next to her in the end. And so knowing that, hey, Ben is super close, I don't know. And they didn't hint at that at all. It may not have been that, but I do think, whether it was intentional or not, it was a little smart of Kinsey to take Ben.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody was on the same page of getting Maria out. They knew that if she made it to the end, that she was going to win.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that really would have changed much.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I think, especially how the immunity challenge played out, like, I think everybody was clear. I think even Maria knew, like, that this was her last day on the beach. So I think it was literally like, hey, let's just celebrate. We got one more challenge, and then we're done.
We did learn at that reward that Ben doesn't have his driver's license. I don't remember hearing that before. Maybe that's not new, but I thought that was kind of crazy.
Where does he live?
That's actually a good question.
Let me see.
I know he lives with his parents. He did say that.
No, he shares a place with his parents.
So he lives with them.
He's from Miami, Florida. So
yeah, he probably needs a license.
Yeah.
Definitely a good first step of kind of after the game of getting that done, though.
I was so after that challenge, it seemed like everybody was on board with getting Maria out. Were you guys a little surprised that Maria was pitching Ben and not Charlie? Because I think Charlie was the bigger threat to Maria than Ben was, right?
Um, I was shocked.
Hmm.
I I don't know why she did that when it made, especially when she was pitching Ben, or excuse me, Charlie a week ago. I don't know why she went off of him. Like Ben, like nobody was looking at Ben as a threat. She was trying to build this kind of fake image of Ben that like nobody saw, instead of saying, "Hey, and Charlie's been with me the whole time. Excuse me, we should go after him because he's done about as much as I have. He's as big a threat as I am."
Well, and shoot, pin it all on Charlie. Hey, we've been doing this together. You guys think I'm the threat. I've won just as many challenges as Charlie has. He's actually the one calling the shots and making it look like it's me. I don't know. Like, I think she could have done a much better job there.
I think the part that I wonder is how much Maria knew of Charlie's relationship with the other people on the island, because Charlie did a really good job of keeping his doors open, and three people there. Ben and him were clearly together since day one of kind of coming together on the beach and building that relationship, to him and Kinsey and Liz kind of going the other way and voting Q off, and they lied to her about that. And so I just wonder how much she knew about all of how close they were, so he maybe pitching somebody else outside of that, because she already tried to get Charlie out and they didn't go for it. So I don't know.
That's true. I was just surprised to see it be between, and not that it was between Ben and Maria, but that those were the two names, not Charlie and Maria.
For sure.
She went out like a champ, though. And we'll get to the final tribal and the jury here in a little bit, but the way she went out, I thought, man, what an amazing an amazing contestant. She played with a ton of grace and humility, and um, just, I don't know, it was very, very impressive. She got a standing ovation as she left. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that she was an immigrant from Beirut, Lebanon. That, I mean, that's awesome. At least I don't remember hearing that, but I don't know. I was very impressed with her in that moment and looking back. Um, but that kind of took a little bit of a turn for me at when she was in the jury, but we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get to that. I think, yeah, I wanted to celebrate Maria as well, because I don't know if it's recency bias, but she's definitely one of the top 3 players in the new era. And honestly, like maybe played one of the best games ever for a non-winner, because she went out kind of traditionally where the best player in a season goes out, and that's top 6, top 5.
True.
Yeah.
And to be 47 years old.
And 47 years old, going against a cast that was 24 to like 29, basically.
Yep.
And dominating the entire time.
Yeah, she was 1 immunity win short of tying individual immunity wins for women. She was a social threat. She was a strategic threat. She was a physical threat. She was the whole package, and incredible run. But players like her, unfortunately, do not win this game often.
It's true.
Hmm.
And Jeff made a good point to highlight that often the best players have the biggest targets. And that's the interesting thing about this game, and I think why I love it so much is you can be an incredibly great player and not win. And that happens time after time after time. So it's interesting. All right, so final 4. Ben, Kinsey, Charlie, and Liz. Kind of highlight the night terrors again with Ben and him freaking out, and you kind of see it was at like that moment that I thought, okay, this could potentially be the final three because of how close they all are. It was such a good story to sell. You know, Charlie being Ben's number one from day one, essentially, and then the way Kenzie's been as close to Ben. I don't know. It was just kind of cool. Ben had some really good moments, and but I don't know the when Liz started talking about fire making before the final immunity challenge and was talking about her wrists, and I didn't
Oh
even
my.
understand what she said. The ligaments in her wrists are too big, so her
Hey.
joints pop out of sockets. Like, what condition does she not have?
That killed me because I was like, oh, something else that Liz somehow has
Oh,
that
she
she
couldn't eat the
probably
pasta earlier.
self-diagnosed.
Yeah.
Like,
It-
dude.
Hey, you can eat the mushroom Swiss bourbon burger at Applebee's, but you can't eat pasta and you can't eat coconut. Like,
Strange.
okay,
She's a millionaire.
but I can't hold a knife because my wrist pop out of socket.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. More on her later, though.
Yeah, more on her later.
Yeah. Ooh, I definitely want to talk about the final immunity challenge. We get tree mail. Ben and Charlie get tree mail. They read it off, and the way it's read, I thought, oh yes, they're bringing the balls back. And just talking about focus and like don't let it drop. And then it cuts to the final immunity challenge. And I was like blown away and super excited. And I don't know about you guys, but I really, really, really like this challenge. I still like the classic, final balls, like keeping those going. But I also like the fact that you're not out of it. So I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about it. And I guess before we do that, Brandon, you should kind of explain what this challenge was and how it all worked.
Welcome to your final immunity challenge. So, I loved this challenge. So, Jeff says, you're just going to solve a Survivor logo puzzle. But wait, there's more. So, while you're solving the puzzle, you have basically a giant plinko board that you're going to shoot a ball up, and while the ball is dropping down the plinko board, you're going to be working on your puzzle. And you want to pay attention to your ball and make sure that you catch it before it reaches the bottom. Because if it reaches the bottom, you are now in what is basically a time penalty, and you have to wait for the ball to navigate through a ramp and reach a bowl. And it seemed like it was at least a minute. I don't know, it's hard to tell because of the editing, but you basically have to stand there and do nothing until your ball reaches the end for you to shoot it back up the plinko board. And once you get your ball back up the plinko board, you can continue on the puzzle. And I loved this puzzle because you weren't just out if your ball dropped, but it added, like, there was two things you had to focus on: one, the puzzle, and the ball. And I think that it was a perfect challenge to end the season on.
Yeah, I huge fan of the challenge. I think Blake, you and I talked about kind of the final challenge and the balls and keeping those alive, and I think this is obviously an iteration of something similar to that. Obviously, keeping the the one ball alive, letting it not hit the bottom rail. And I do like that they were able, like, if they weren't just out of the challenge. So that was definitely nice. But having to focus on two things at once, taking some risk, but also being safe enough so you don't have to have that time penalty. It definitely a great final challenge to end the season on.
Yeah, I agree. And it was kind of everything encompassed in one. You had to have a little bit of, I guess not stamina, but like mental capacity to keep track of both things and not get too lost in the puzzle and not too focused on that to pay attention to your ball. But then you couldn't like not focus on the puzzle either and only focus on the ball because the puzzle's what won you the challenge. And it was, I don't know, it was a great both and it was even cool to see like Kinsey who like threw the ball up and couldn't get it up there like each time and even like missed the board one time, which I thought was crazy. Like I thought maybe she's gonna lose the ball in the sand or something. That would have been wild, but
I thought she was going to launch into the ocean.
yeah. So I don't know. It added kind of a fun little twist, and I definitely liked it. But every single person messed up at some point except for Ben. And we just got done watching how Ben's freaking out and has slept maybe 2 hours a night every night since night what do you say 11 or 13.
Night 13.
Yeah.
And it's like he walked into the challenge talking about how scatterbrained he was and Jeff like I'm all over the place, and then to come in and just lock in and crush the puzzle, which he hasn't really done or been a part of or like close in any challenge that I can remember. And he crushed it. It was an awesome moment for Ben.
Yeah, I think not getting the sleep to being scatterbrained and all of that definitely throws the odds not in his favor for the challenge. But I feel like coming back to being a musician and having to do all of these different things all at once is where that kind of came into play of he was able to kind of focus on two things at once and be able to do that rather than somebody that's not having to do that all the time. As a musician, you're playing a guitar or an instrument, singing to reading music to doing all of these different things. So definitely had that, and I feel like that almost put him back into something that he was comfortable in and made him forget about everything else. So it was definitely a cool moment for him, and you could tell just how happy he was and what that meant to him. And so I was super happy that he was able to pull it out.
Yeah, he definitely laid the blueprint for the challenge as well. Because like Charlie got he was a little too risky. Ben was playing conservative the whole time, and I think it was okay. Let me go to the plinko board a little early while my ball still has a lot of time, and maybe lose 5 seconds on the puzzle versus the 30 to 60 seconds or whatever it is standing there if it drops to the bottom. So he had just the perfect mentality and game plan for it. And yeah, super happy for Ben, who's been, not a great player in my opinion, but super fun player to watch. So nice to see him get a win.
I feel like the first mistake Charlie had where the ball dropped all the way down so quick. I don't know if you guys caught it, but
He missed.
so he threw the ball up there, and whenever the ball went over the levels of like kind of back and forth at the very, very top of that, I saw and it looked like it like jumped down a couple levels. So I
Yeah,
feel like he just
it
wasn't
skipped.
paying
I saw that.
attention,
Yep. For sure.
and definitely is what screwed him up. And then at the second time, I feel like it was I just gotta get this one last piece in to catch up, and that just caught him again. So it just kind of unfortunate for him, but
Yeah, it was kind of bad luck on that toss, and then felt like he had to play, balls to the wall, no pun intended,
Mhm.
um, and just like go all out and take risks, and it just didn't work out. But okay, so Ben wins. It was a cool moment, even back at camp, when everybody was like, "Hey, do you want to talk?" And he was like, I do, but I need to take a minute." And went out to the beach, threw his arms up in the air, celebrated, and then the music started, and you could see in his face when he realized, like, oh crap, I have got a huge decision to make, and this is not all sunshine and rainbows. Like, this is potentially $1 million decision. And I don't know that he would have won no matter who he picked, but I do think by who he picked, that changed the outcome of this game. And I think he was realizing that. So that was kind of cool for him to just see that look on his face and see that shift, because we all know that, but I don't know. I don't know. For me, it was really cool to see that look on his face when he realized that.
Yeah, I think it was oh crap, I've got to pick between who I want and then deciding, okay, I want Liz to go make fire. I've got to pick between my two closest friends of who I put up against them to possibly get voted out. So it's definitely an oh my gosh moment for sure.
I don't know if you guys pay attention to like the music and background stuff like I do, but during the kind of fire making practice montage, the music that they set behind that whole thing with the
Yes.
confessionals and the practice with incorporating the flint and steel strike into the
Mhm.
music
Yes,
was incredible.
Oh yeah,
loved it.
awesome. Yeah, and did you notice that? And I guess Jeff kind of talked about it later, but when they got back to camp, there were 4 knives and 4 pieces of flint. That was it. They used to provide like a whole kit to practice with, and all they had was the knife and flint,
Mhm.
and was kind of cool. And it almost seemed like, hey, we've like set some records in the past couple seasons. We're not doing that. You don't have like every single tool to make a perfect fire, so just figure it out, which was kind of cool. But I want to talk about Liz here for a minute. Is she? Did she really play a decent game where she could have beaten anybody in the final four, or like, meaning could she have beaten
Hmm.
anyone other than Ben, maybe? And people just thought, or were they just telling her that? I was confused by that because I didn't see the game that she played, and she thought she hung the moon. So I don't know. I was curious to get your guys' take on that.
So I think that, and I don't mean this, this is only going to sound mean, but I don't really mean it this way. But she walks around with kind of unwarranted confidence and a little bit of delusion. Because even like she said that, like to the jury, I think I'm getting ahead here, but even the look on the jury's face when she said, like, I could have beat anybody was like, I think she's playing a completely different game than she actually thinks she is.
Yeah,
And sometimes I guess in business you almost have to have that blind confidence on, like, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna kick ass, and I'll be the greatest person ever. You almost have to have that to run a successful business a little bit, but like a little bit of delusion, in my opinion.
no, absolutely. I'm right there with you. I was kind of confused, and I didn't love the way. I think jumping ahead here a little bit, but when she at tribal, I would have like I think her words were, "I would have beat all of you. It was over." like I would have won. Like I thought that was just a little weird and odd for her to say like that. And like you said, Blake, even the jury was kind of like, what? So I was confused just as much as you guys were.
Yeah, Twitter definitely made me feel better after that because I went to Twitter immediately whenever she said that because I was like, am I missing something here? And pretty much like everybody that watches was like, what on earth is this lady saying? So
I was really hoping that Jeff would have asked or brought that up at the little reunion afterwards on like, hey, Liz, you said that you would have beat anybody here. Okay, if Liz, you were sitting in the final three, who would have voted for her? Just to see nobody raise their hand. That's the only thing that would have been, I think, more cool for me than seeing her go out at that moment. But that is the worst time to go out, is after fire making. You're so defeated. You just like, you got beat, and then you have one night to hang out and like catch up. And I never feel like that person that goes out on that moment has much of an impact with the questions at the final tribal. And she just like, I don't know, it was just kind of a dud for kind of a dud player, in my opinion.
do you guys think that her whole I have bad wrists was just like something she made up? So if she did suck at the challenge, instead of her just like being like, yeah, I was terrible there, she can be like, well, my wrists. Like, do you think it's like too big of an ego for her to accept it?
Potentially.
No, did you hear her wrist popping, man?
My
Holy.
wrists do that. I don't
I
think
was
you
gonna
can
say,
hear that, but
You got too big attendance too?
yeah, I do. But I can hold a knife and start a fire.
No, and I hadn't really thought about it like that, but maybe so.
and may what am I trying to say? That may have not even been intentional on her part, but just her kind of like subconscious saying like, I've got to come up with a reason on why I can't do this because I don't know that I can. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. She just seems, and I don't want to, you know, pile on Liz here, but she just seems like the kind of person that is always going to have an excuse why she can't do something. And she's clearly a successful businesswoman.
Allegedly.
And allegedly, true. But for her to come out and say like, I don't need the money, I'm already a millionaire, like that, cool. But like, I don't know, that's just not something you tell people. I don't, it was weird. I don't know.
I'll pile on Liz. I kind of wanted to see her get to the final three and get absolutely roasted by the jury.
I did too, honestly. All right, so final three: Kinsey, Ben, and Charlie. And it was at this moment that I thought, ooh, Charlie might have to go head to head against Kinsey. And, you know, Ben's not going to get any votes. This is going to be a close vote. But here's where I want to talk for a little while. I remember specifically at the end of last season, the three of us talked, and we can probably go back and even listen to the episode, but we talked for a while about how it seems like people in the game put a bigger weight or a bigger emphasis on the fire making than the jury does. And they have for several seasons. This season flipped that for me. And it seemed like, based on the questions that the jury had and their reactions to Kinsey winning, and even some things there at the very end that like Tiffany said, was like that fire making played a huge role in Kinsey winning the game. I think it may have been the final thing that helped her win the game. And that's crazy to me because that's so different from what we've seen in past seasons.
I actually completely agree with you because as soon as Kinsey won fire, I was like, it's over. I think Kinsey won this. And yeah, it's typically been like, oh, that's cool. You did fire too little, too late. But I think for Kinsey, that was exactly what she needed for a couple people specifically that we'll get to later, like that swayed their votes.
I feel like a lot of times the person that goes for fire is sometimes the person that is the bin of the three and needing a really, really big move, to where Kinsey was right there in line, and that wasn't something that she had to have. Maybe it was, but it wasn't something that was like she was asking to go or felt like that was the only way she would win. I think she had other things going for her, where sometimes in the past, like I said, it was more of the bin of the three that wanted to go for the fire, for the big move and what got them to the end, where Kinsey had a couple other things going for her throughout the season.
That's true. It just made me wonder if Charlie would have said, I want the fire, if that would have been enough for him. And it sounds like it would have been based on a couple people's reactions.
I think Charlie's biggest problem was because I personally don't think he needed fire on his resume, but
I don't either.
I think Charlie's biggest problem was I don't know if he didn't speak to his game very well, or if he wasn't given the opportunity to speak to his game very well.
That's
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about is I don't know about you guys. This may be a bit of a hot take, but I'm ready to see some jury reform. Um, I have liked for the last several seasons for a while just the kind of banter back and forth and like the jury can ask whatever. But the part where Soda asked a question and said, "Hey, you've got 30 seconds," and then Tiffany was like, "I'll be your timer. When I say stop, yes, stop talking."
Yeah.
Was like judge, jury, executioner, and I get like you're the jury, but like give people time to articulate their game. And somebody like Ben doesn't necessarily have as much to talk about as somebody like Charlie does. And I think there were a couple moments like that that really held Charlie back that I think he could have talked to his game a lot better. I also miss the moments where like they had opening statements and got to make a pitch for their game where lately it seems like they just jump straight into questions. Am I totally off base?
So I was with you. I think because I got annoyed at Q initially because I was like, oh, look, Q again having main character syndrome and not realizing this isn't about him. And I think that a few people in the jury were making the final tribal council about them rather than the three people that are actually in a spot to potentially win the game. And you have 30 seconds to convince me that that my perception of you is reality or not, I think is dumb. Because you're telling me that I put in 26 days, 24/7 of work, and I have to convince you of your opinion of me, whether it's true or not, and I only get 30 seconds. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Like you that's a slap in the face to all the work that you've done in the game.
And Charlie was the only one and that was to Soda's question. And she basically said, "Hey, I've got my opinions on all of you. I think this, and this, and it's your job to either agree with me or disagree with me." And the other two were like, "Yeah, you were pretty much spot on. I'm gonna own it." And Charlie's like, "Hold on a second. My game was much more than that. Let me explain how." And still only had 30 seconds.
Yeah, and Tiff
I
was
don't
like,
know. Like, yeah, and I don't know. I'd be curious to go back and time it. It seemed a little shorter, but I may just be a little biased there. But
I
don't
just
know.
feel like it's not enough time, and kind of for me going into the questions and all, I don't know if it was at this point or at some point. I said I feel like Kinsey's got this in the bag because she's talking better and everybody's almost taking what she says better.
Felt
And it just felt like Charlie didn't have the time or the people on his side. I don't know. It was just
it kind
weird.
of felt like some people in the jury, maybe Tiffany, were trying to tailor a Kinsey win. I'm not taking anything away from Kinsey, but it
Mhm.
felt like they were really like trying to
Yeah.
make sure that she was the last one to answer a lot of the times, and
For
just kind
sure.
of seemed like she had a lot of the questions that were asked were tailored for her. So, and I don't know, maybe I'm way off base with that, but it just like, I know the game that I watched Charlie play, and I'm happy that Kinsey won, but I'm like, I don't feel like Charlie got a fair shot.
I agree. That's where I think there needs to be a little more structure around the jury's questions. Um,
I think it could just be as simple as some interjections from Jeff.
yeah. And I also liked when each jury would get up, like stand up and ask a question where it wasn't like a free for all and I
Community
asked the
style.
question, but
Hmm.
somebody else on the jury can answer the question or combat what you say. Like, oh no, actually, Charlie, I'm gonna correct you on that. Actually, that was me. Like, no, you weren't asked the question. You'll get your chance to talk. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't like that community style as much, but
I the reason I agree, I think that they could probably just control it a little better, but the reason that they changed it to this format versus what it used to be is because it, like, the whole kind of bitter jury, um where people just took turns, like, just throwing daggers at the final three because of
Beating
all
up
the
on the
things that they
three.
did. Yeah.
right.
That's why they moved away from that, and it was
It
tailor
was
your
for
questions to outwit, outlast, outplay. But yeah, I think there just needs to be a little bit more kind of structure, as you said.
And
yeah.
and that leads me to my next kind of complaint is the object of the game is to outwit, outlast, outplay, or whichever order they're in. I don't remember
Yeah.
right now. It's late.
Yeah.
But Q's question and what he admitted that he changed his vote. His question was, "Tell me what you're going to do with the money." And he changed who he was going to vote for based on their answer to what they're going to do with the money, I think was a horrible question.
Rather than what they did in the game, you're basing it on. Yeah, I agree.
I've never liked that question and never liked if somebody has based their vote off of that question and that answer because
What difference does
everybody
it make to you if
abs-
what I do with that money?
absolutely everybody needs $1 million minus maybe a couple people that have played the game that are wealthy or have that money, but and I don't want to take anything away from Kenzie's story and what she's done and helped people, and she needs the money, and this was the first thing for herself. She talked about starting a family and doing those things and setting herself up, but so did Charlie. Like Charlie was talking about, I mean, he's got a girlfriend, he's got a family, he's got all of these different things, so he needs it just as much as she does,
And
to
saying
a
like, "Hey,
sense.
I'm going to bet on myself by paying my way through law school with that money." Like
Yeah,
that's the
I
same
just
thing as
But
her
Ben needs it
saying,
too.
right. It's like I don't know. The whole thing was I don't know, stupid. I
your vote
hate
should be based off of how the person played the game, not what they're going to do with the prize money or why they need the money so bad or what. How you played the game should dictate who gets voted to win.
And all of that being said, that is not taking away from Kenzie's game.
Correct.
I'm totally cool with Kenzie winning the game. I do really like Kenzie, and I think she played a wonderful game. That question though is bogus.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
Um, the other one that I wanted to talk about, and then if there's anything else that you guys have, but I want to talk about Maria for a minute.
Well,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, you go ahead first. Were you going to talk about how the votes shake out first?
I guess that's a good point. We should
Yeah.
do that. So it ends up being Charlie, Kinsey, Charlie, Kinsey, Charlie, Kinsey, 3-3 tie. Then it goes Kinsey gets the 4th vote, and then Kinsey gets the 5th vote. And do you remember who all voted for Charlie? There were 3 votes for Charlie.
I think it was Hunter, Soda, and Venus.
I believe so.
I think so. And everybody else voted for Kinsey, which Q admitted that he changed his vote. Actually, a lot of people changed their vote, but Q's reason was the one that we just talked about, the answer to that question. But Maria voted for Kinsey, and she said she had never changed her mind based on the questions that were answered. It was like she was not voting for Charlie no matter what, which really surprised me. And did that surprise you guys at all?
Yeah, I was disappointed because to me it kind of felt like he wasn't voting for Charlie out of spite, out of
Yep.
bitterness. And I think not voting for somebody for those reasons, like that's a really bad reason to not vote for somebody. And for Charlie to be your number one through basically the entire game, and you just turn around and say nope and kind of just throw that all away. Little interesting. I will be curious. I'm assuming that Mike Bloom will be interviewing Charlie. Excuse me. I'll be curious to see what he has to say about that. I don't know what's happening to me. I'm like hiccuping.
No, I think I was shocked by Maria not voting for Charlie, and I don't know if it was bitterness or what, but it just seemed odd to me because I don't even know if Maria knows that Charlie was trying to vote her out, and in that sense, because that never really came up from what I can tell. But it was just odd that, like you said, your number one ally from day one, and didn't even it almost sounded like she didn't even consider voting for him.
And then for Charlie to come out and say, and before she left, she even told me, like, you have my vote at the end.
Yeah.
To flat out say that to somebody who has been your number one, and then 2 nights later say, no, I wasn't even considering it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I went from really high on Maria to like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't know. It's not a good look.
For somebody that I said earlier would consider one of the better non-winners that we've seen. Yeah, definitely a sour taste in my mouth with her just based off of what was a weird decision. Obviously, she's entitled to vote for whoever she wants, but it just feels odd that there was, outside of understanding that Charlie and Maria were both threats and they needed to go after each other, there was nothing that would have indicated that there was any ill will towards one another. So just very odd that Charlie didn't get a vote.
For sure.
Honestly, because if you get a 4-4 tie, the third finalist gets to cast that vote, which would have been Ben. I would have loved to see a Charlie Kinsey tie because Ben called, Charlie his day one, and then Kinsey kind of being there for Ben during his panic attacks and just kind of being some emotional support. I would have loved to see how that would have shaken out.
Well, and then that one moment where I think it was Soda, when she was like, wait, this could tie. I thought, oh, that's the foreshadowing. We're going to have a tie.
Yeah.
But I think that would have been really cool. And from Ben riding on a high to like, oh no, I didn't get any votes, to, oh no, now I have to make this decision, would have been really entertaining to see. But I don't know. It was a great season, a great finale, a great winner. some of that was just a little overshadowed by my disappointment in the jury this episode. So
Agreed. No. Incredible season. And yeah, Kinsey's like completely social winner, right?
for sure. Yeah.
Um,
Probably one of the
there's-
better social players we've seen, like across the board.
Yep.
Yep. And I don't know if you guys saw on social media, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, she announced that she is pregnant and having a baby. So good for her. Like what a cool thing. Win $1 million and start a family. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. I did not see that.
So and then hey, I mean, I'm gonna shout myself out here for a second, but Kinsey was on my team.
Hey, there you go.
The blind draft, I picked the winner. And the fact that nobody, like none of us, our winner pick that we've changed, I think we've all changed like 2 or 3 times. None of us picked it right. I thought that was awesome.
You're
Yep.
close. Definitely
Hey.
had some people there, but
Yeah. I am in our 2 seasons covering Survivor, I'm the only one to pick the winner correctly. Even if it took me 3 tries. Shout out Dean.
we'll put that asterisk there for you.
Yeah. Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Oh yeah, it does.
Oh, okay. So we're at the end. Let's see here. Anything that you guys want to talk about in the little reunion afterwards?
I think I really appreciated how, because Jeff asked like, hey, who voted for who, and who voted for Kinsey, and or no, who voted for Charlie, and Maria's hand didn't go up, and you could almost immediately see Charlie's disappointment. I know we talked about it already, but the way that he handled that and said, hey, you know, the jury gets it right every time, and the winner of each season deserves to be that winner. So for him to be like, yeah, I'm disappointed, but like Kinsey played the best game and congrats to her, I think that was like way to take the high road there, because I feel like I would like to think that I would have done the same thing, but I feel, I don't know, right in the moment.
Yeah, that would be tough, and definitely shows his maturity. He's obviously I don't remember how old he is, but
I think he's 25.
okay, yeah, so young, and I mean to be able to step back and not be bitter or frustrated or anything like that was definitely showed his maturity.
Yeah, no, definitely. I thought about that a lot this season. I was like,
Ooh.
man, what would I do this, like if I was on the show? And I do not think I would handle it as well as what he did. And he's right. Even if I would have rather Charlie won and I thought Charlie played a better game, that's what makes Survivor so interesting, is you're not just playing to get to the end and make a pitch to this jury who is the same jury every time, and who we think this jury might vote the same way and put the same weight on certain aspects of the game that previous juries have. But this cast was totally different than other ones that we've seen, and they put weight on different things. And I mean, he's right. And the best player did win, and just based on the rules of the game, and definitely smart for him. And you know, good on him for taking the high road.
Yep. Can't wait to see him for season 50 in the returnee season. That's unconfirmed. I'm just assuming.
100%. Yeah. Well, 99%.
But also,
Or maybe Q will wear his Q skirt.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, one more takeaway from the reunion. Long live Jelinski. For having several means seven means several. Having that live in Survivor lore and that just being a running joke through the entire season, I've honestly never seen somebody that gets voted out in the first episode be brought up not only multiple times in the episode, but all the way into the finale and joking about season 47 being called season 40 several. So yeah, for an hour and a half of screen time for Jelinski, he's forever in Survivor lore.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I hope we continue to see kind of this, like, the fun loving side of Survivor and the banter between the contestants and Jeff. I feel like we saw a side of Jeff this season that we haven't seen before, and it was a lot of fun. Um, I enjoyed it. It didn't seem as like rigid as some past seasons. While I like that, it just seemed lighthearted and fun, and I really enjoyed this season a lot.
I think a kind of a not a 180, but a big switch from last season, from gameplay to, like you said, with Jeff and different things like that. Uh, Definitely one of my favorite new era seasons.
Yeah, agreed. And whenever they tease seasons, they like season 41 was like this game's a monster, and like they kind of overplayed that, but Jeff being like these players are different, they're unique, they kind of took over the game, and that really lived up to expectations. This was honestly a season unlike any other, just from all the different things that happened on the island, and like from Q just being completely chaotic to 4 straight blind sides of people with idols in their pockets to Jeff eating Twizzlers and popcorn at tribal council. Like, just a lot of things that we have never seen before that, those are the reasons that we continue to watch and are excited for Survivor each and every week.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Speaking of season 40 several, what'd you guys think of the little teaser?
I think
I'm excited.
I think it's obviously a tiny piece of what we're gonna get, but I have high hopes. I mean, if it's anything like this season, I'll be happy.
I was trying to look for any sort of Easter eggs or hints or just anything hidden in there, because I know sometimes they will do that, and I may be overthinking it, and I haven't like fully thought this out yet, but I was interested to see the whole. It was like almost like a blacksmith type of a deal where they were like forging stuff and creating the signs, and then like it seemed like they were carving out the survivor sign, and it almost seemed like things were changing a little bit, and I may be totally overthinking it, but there was just a couple things that I thought, okay, this game may put some additional twists or change things up just a little bit, which I'm excited for. I'm not ready for something new, but I'm excited to see how the game is going to evolve and change, especially after this season, because I think this season has changed the game.
Yeah, definitely always evolving and excited for what's to come in.
Yes, sir. All right. What's next for us, Brandon? What do we have coming up?
So I don't think we have talked. We haven't really talked about what we're doing with the merge feast. I'm assuming we're taking a little bit of time off.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think we will take a little bit of time off. We may sprinkle in a couple episodes here or there, just as things come out about the next season, or I don't know, we see interviews, or I don't know, anything that we want to kind of keep up to date with the Survivor crew on. But definitely be back for season 40 several. Don't know that I'll speak for all of us, but I'm going to speak for all of us. We will be back. But yeah, we've got a couple other podcasts. Brandon, you've got let's see, what I don't know why I'm blanking on the names.
Yeah. So every Wednesday I have a podcast host by myself called This is Baseball. Just dive into weekly news stories, kind of history of the game of baseball, mostly focusing on Major League Baseball. Again, that's every week. Also do every other week right now because it's the off season. It's called Football Kingdom. That's with myself and then Tyler Mallon. And again, that's similar to This is Baseball, just covering news for NFL and a new project that we're going to be working on that you'll probably see in June or July. Keep you posted on that is a new gaming podcast that there's still a lot of stuff in the works that we need to iron out, but it's going to be Blake, Logan, Tyler from Football Kingdom, and myself just kind of hanging out, talking about video games, maybe hopping on a YouTube channel, playing some games together, and just having a good time talking about, our origins of why we're into video games or just discussing video game news and just, again, staying loose and having a good time. And again, look out for that sometime in the summer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you guys have anything that you would love to hear us talk about or our opinions of, we'd love to hear that from you as well. So be sure to share that. And yeah, I think that's all I've got. You guys have anything else?
I think I would just say if for our Merge Feast podcast, if we do end up posting something in the off season, a great place to find out if we have posted anything like that would be on our social media. So follow us on there. We'll announce that we've uploaded a recording or an episode, and so absolutely follow us on X and just pay attention there if you would.
Yeah. No, again, just reiterate, heck of a season 46. This is our second season. Like Blake said, we'll be back next season. And man, it's already over. I can't wait though for the next one. And I'm assuming we'll hear more about when that is, but it'll be fall sometime.
Absolutely. And we'll see what we can shake up a little bit. I still think we need to get some face cams going on, maybe a little video action. And eventually I would love to maybe live stream the finale at some point. I think that would be super cool. So we'll see what the next couple seasons holds, but yeah, definitely tune in. So
Got some ideas up our sleeve. That's what I'll say.
Yep. All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, I'm gonna kick it over to you, Logan. Go ahead and say goodbye one last time.
Goodbye, Logan.